Morning, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you're all well. Control Alt History is the name of the channel. I mentioned it before. I've got some good videos. The biggest sex scandal of the 80s, Vicki Morgan, Washington, D.C. mistress. So, yeah, it reminded me very much of sort of an Epstein kind of thing, this, but sort of back in time and sort of again the 80s, not the 2000s, the 2010s. So it very much felt like a very similar operation, so to speak, as Epstein, but maybe not so much with children as much. But see, I used to like again. There used to be a woman in England called Madam Whiplash. Again, this I think she was kind of around in the 70s and the 80s. And back then, a scandal now and a scandal in the 70s and the 80s are very different. Again, Keir Starmer's currently in court, or rent boys are in court. And he hasn't, like, you know what I mean? He's still the Prime Minister, despite the rent boy scandal and Mandelson. But sort of a sexual scandal. So, like, back in time, Madam Whiplash and possibly like with this woman here as well that we're going to hear about. They were like they used to blackmail people, and back in the day, you didn't need quite as much ammo to blackmail people. Like back in the 70s and the 80s, like cheating on your wife was a big deal. Do you know what I mean? Like now, cheating on your wife's not a big deal now. So the level of like the blackmail and what they do to people to get the blackmail, that's increased over time, and we very much seem to be in a world now where they use children as the blackmail tool. You know what I mean? And the whole paedophilia thing. Whereas in the past, it wasn't again like just cheating on your wife. In the past was a scandal when you were married. You know what I mean? That could finish you. So it wasn't quite the level I don't think that it is today, but very much still the same sort of scenario, but just back in time really. And it very much reminded me and had shades of sort of the Epstein crack, Eyes Wide Shut film, kind of satanic weird parties, like sexual parties. So it always very much like shades of the same thing, but not as bad, probably. You know what I mean? Um, yeah, I don't think this is as much sort of centered on like child abuse and paedophilia. It's more just like sexual scandals. And again, but you've got to really sort of think of the times, and again, like cheating on your wife back in history there was like a big scandal, and like women getting divorced was a scandal. Like times have very much changed, and the level of the blackmail needed to blackmail people seems to have upped, and you need more ammunition on people to blackmail them now. Them cheating on the wife just won't quite do it. You know what I mean? It might piss the wife off, but the world's not really bothered if you cheat on your wife anymore, really. So they up the level of blackmail, if you ask me. So like the level of what you can be blackmailed on. So we'll have a listen to this anyhow. But it just very much felt like shades of Epstein and the same sort of clubs, but the older generations of the same sort of club. So we'll have a listen anyway. Control Alt History, good channel.
Okay, this will be a video about the Vicki Morgan scandal from 1983. This was the biggest sex scandal of the 1980s, one of the biggest political scandals of all time, and it's really not talked about much. It's kind of been forgotten with time, but this is an absolutely wild one. And this one really kind of checks off all the boxes you could want in a really good mystery. There's a whole bunch of sex, orgies, powerful politicians, mysterious deaths, and even some hypnotism thrown in for good measure. So this one really kind of checks off all the boxes and is definitely a wild story. If you've been following my channel for a while, you may know that this was one of the very first videos I did was a video about the Vicki Morgan scandal. That one was only about 10 minutes. I've always been fascinated by this case. I've continued looking into it and learned so much more about this case. So I wanted to make a longer video because a story this crazy deserves like a really comprehensive deep dive into it. Go ahead and get started here. One of the main people in this story is this guy, Alfred Bloomingdale, and he was from the family who founded the Bloomingdale's department store chain. So he was very rich from inheriting a ton of money, and he also started up the Diners Club card way, way back in the 1950s. So this guy was really rich, and he was also very powerful because he was a very, very close associate of Ronald Reagan. So Alfred Bloomingdale lived in California, and Ronald Reagan, he was one of the people who helped Ronald Reagan get elected governor of California in the late 1960s and early 1970s. And then he was also a part of what was known as Ronald Reagan's kitchen cabinet, which was a group of very powerful, very rich people who were kind of like his inner circle. And his wife, Alfred Bloomingdale's wife, Betsy Bloomingdale, was actually Nancy Reagan's best friend. And so this whole kind of Vicki Morgan scandal started in 1968 when she was only 17 years old. And Alfred Bloomingdale spotted her at a restaurant, approached her, and he was 54 at the time. So there was a bit of an age difference there. And he said to Vicki Morgan that he needed a tennis partner for his daughter and asked her if she wanted to, play tennis with his daughter. And this Vicki Morgan was described as just an absolute knockout, just stunningly beautiful. Her story was kind of a winding tale. She had a son at 16 and dropped out of high school. And then she moved to Hollywood at 17 to try to make it big and left her son back at home with her parents or her mother. And so she moved to Hollywood at 17 to try to make it big. And then shortly after that, she met Alfred Bloomingdale. And what Alfred Bloomingdale was really interested in was not a tennis partner for his daughter. He was interested in sex. And later on down the road, Vicki Morgan told all these crazy stories of what she got caught up in because Alfred Bloomingdale had what was described as a sex dungeon in the basement of a house. And he was into all this crazy stuff like whips and chains. And he would always order prostitutes. And he had a whole bunch of powerful friends that he would invite over as well. So this really was described as just like this sex dungeon of his was described as this like massive orgy where all this crazy stuff went down. And this whole thing went on for a decade. Vicki Morgan served as Alfred Bloomingdale's mistress for over a decade. And where the story really starts to take off is in August of 1982 when Alfred Bloomingdale died. And after he died, Alfred Bloomingdale's wife found out about this whole affair he was having with Vicki Morgan. And up to that point, up to his death, he was paying Vicki Morgan $10,000 a month to serve as his mistress and participate in all these sex orgies and wild parties. After he died, Betsy Bloomingdale found out about that. She cut that money off. And so she decided to sue the Bloomingdale estate because she had written documentation from Alfred Bloomingdale right here on the screen where he agreed to pay her $10,000 a month moving forward. Alfred Bloomingdale also was an early investor in Showbiz Pizza, and he gave her one half of his ownership stake in Showbiz Pizza. Showbiz Pizza ended up becoming a really big chain, very successful. And this whole kind of thing, this whole lawsuit was kind of viewed as almost like a joke.
Showbiz Pizza. Sorry to interrupt, but yeah, Showbiz Pizza again. Pizzagate. Everything we were learning about Pizzagate there, and the code words. I don't know if this is the crack here, but the guy Control Alt History hasn't connected that dot. It doesn't seem. But I mean, I don't know, but it seems a bit of a coincidence. Again, these people all into the like sexy fucking satanic parties here, and you know what I mean. It's all the same sort of fucking click here. So I don't know, but again, the business they happen to have fucking open just happened to be called Showbiz Pizza. Is that a coincidence? I don't know.
By some people because this Betsy Bloomingdale was like regarded as like the ultimate high class, elegant lady. She was notorious for throwing these like super elaborate, stylish parties that were like very, very classy, and just really known as like the epitome of elegance. And suddenly she was faced off against Vicki Morgan, who, wasn't exactly known as being elegant or anything like that. So anyway, Vicki Morgan filed a lawsuit to keep getting these payments and this money she claimed she was entitled to. And the key thing that came out was that it wasn't just Alfred Bloomingdale, involved in like a little kinky sex. It was a whole bunch of associates of Alfred Bloomingdale's, and a lot of these people had gone on to, become very powerful nationally. And so anyway, during
Would you believe it? You know what I mean? Would you believe it? So again, as I said, it's very much shades of like again the global class and their sex fucking weird sex parties and Epstein, and again it's kind of like Epstein's not. I was like I said before, like Epstein's nothing new here. Nothing new at all, and he's just like again, this has been going on a long time. And again, just the level of what these people have been up to. But again, this doesn't necessarily mention any children. But we had that company there, Showbiz Pizza, which I just find a bit too much of a coincidence, to be honest. Again, after Pizzagate and everything, I'm going to mention in this video at the near the end, this video here as well by Nick Crowley. Weirdly, Alistair Crowley, the most evil man in the world. Aviloop, YouTube's Darkest Mystery. That's kind of to do with Epstein. So I'll mention that at the end. I won't play that's half an hour, 34 minutes long, that video. So I won't play all of that, and this one's 35 minutes long. So I won't play all of this either. I'll just give you sort of a feel of what's going down here, and sort of a feel of that one as well. But all kind of in the same ballpark here of elite sex party weirdness, fucking blackmail, like all this kind of crack. You know what I mean? So yeah, this woman again, Vicki Morgan. Well, you've heard the story for yourself. I won't go over it again. I'll play a bit more.
during Vicki Morgan's testimony, all the details of these crazy sex parties started coming out. She wasn't naming names yet. And in order to kind of like fund this lawsuit and pay her lawyers, she sold everything. She had a whole bunch of jewelry, a fancy car, all these nice clothes that Alfred Bloomingdale had given to her over the years. She sold it all just to pay her lawyers and basically wiped herself out. And then she ended up losing this lawsuit and was basically left totally penniless, didn't know what to do. So she decided that she was going to write a tell all book that just laid out the whole story, named names. And she has a quote about this book she was working on. She said, "It will make Watergate look like Play School." So she was getting ready to just blow the lid off of all this crazy stuff and who was involved in all these crazy sex parties. And then right after that, right as she was working on her book in July of 1983, Vicki Morgan was murdered. She was only 30 years old, and her head was bashed in with a baseball bat one night. And her roommate, Marvin Pancos, was arrested for the murder. There's just this whole story of him killing her has just a million holes in it. They were roommates in a Studio City townhome. They'd moved together.
I mean, right away, I don't believe this. They've set him up. You know what I mean? Again, she's about to yet again. It's like the fucking whole Epstein crack in a way. There's people who know a lot of information about what's gone on here, and then lo and behold, she's about to write a book, and then she's beaten to fucking death with a baseball bat. Now, is that a coincidence? And the answer is absolutely no. Again, there was also Ronald Reagan and all sorts of people were fucking caught up in this. Again, it's like a political scandal of today, so to speak, with Donald Trump, except not as bad probably as this whole Donald Trump affair that's going on, and Epstein and Prince Andrew, and the Epstein thing's probably worse, quite a bit worse, but this is again a very very similar thing going on. Just not so much with kids, but then we do have that mention of pizza before, so I don't know. But primarily what we're hearing about here is again this woman involved in sex parties for the rich people, multiple rich people involved. The man's died, it's all went to shit for her, so she's decided to write a book about it all. And before the book got anywhere near being released, she's been beaten to death with a fucking baseball bat. Now, obviously for me anyway, like that's because she's writing a book exposing all the fucking global elites and their sex fucking party ways here back in the 80s as well. So Yeah, it was kind of a way. Just sort of the video again. If you want to come and watch the rest of it, it's on Control Alt History. Great channel, honestly. Good videos like this. So, yeah, again, I don't want to steal all the videos, so you can come and watch the rest of it. I'm just giving you the gist of it here. It's just woman involved in a fucking sex party scandal with all the rich people, fucking all you heard there. Went to write a book and then beaten to death with a fucking baseball bat, and then again, I blamed it on a person she lived with, who again, if you come and watch the rest of the video, there's why he probably didn't do it. You know what I mean? There's all sorts in here, to be honest. Again, there's another 30 minutes of the video. We've only kind of covered 6 minutes of it. So, a good video, good channel, but just kind of along the lines of the whole Epstein elite sex party, satanic weirdos, you know what I mean? So, it's not new, it's been going on all the time. It's just Epstein's kind of like the modern day version of what was going on back then, so to speak. So we'll move over to this Aviloop, YouTube's darkest mystery. I just watched this last night, and I didn't know where it was going at all, and then it ended up being about Epstein in the end. So we'll have a look at that. So again, this Nick Crowley is the channel.
August 5th, 2011. A channel appears on YouTube serving as a promotional page for an up-and-coming company called Aviloop, a brand that boasted unbeatable deals in the world of aviation. That same day, 4 videos were uploaded, each showcasing young women dressed as flight attendants, detailing some of the many services that Aviloop provided. These would be the only videos ever uploaded to the channel, as from that moment on, the page was abandoned, giving Aviloop a lifespan of just 1 day. The 1 day is all it would take to set in motion a mystery that remains unsolved to this very day, a mystery surrounding the company at the core of this channel and the services that it allegedly provided, with no one being able to answer the seemingly simple question, what was Aviloop? And the more you search for answers, the more deranged this trail becomes. This is the story of Aviloop, YouTube's darkest mystery.
And there's no catch.
So again, the video is 34 minutes or long here. So that's the kind of the intro, if you know what I mean. Oh, no, we've got quite a little bit more. And is that the oh yeah, welcome to Aviloop. So there's multiple parts of the video. So you kind of got the general gist there. Website set up called Aviloop. Fucking young girls dressed like provocatively like flight attendants, like sort of a sexy kind of flight attendant. Fairly young, but they don't believe them to be underage. So yeah, this whole like YouTube site just had them 4 videos. Now there's something to it. There was a site which he goes to in the video. Again, he's just kind of showcasing all these girls and what the whole YouTube site here. And I don't know if it's still on YouTube today. Possibly is, with these 4 videos of the girls. So yeah, again, I don't want to play the whole video. You could go and watch it for yourself if you want. So he kind of like they eventually find out who set up this site. I kind of want to move it forward to that bit. Here we go. So right, so there's this whole site, and it's all just a bit weird and yada yada yada. So then he's trying to like find out who built the site, and then the site went down, and then it come back on. And when he come back on, he kind of traced it to this woman. Now, this woman's where it gets interesting, so we'll play it from here. But if you want to come and watch all these sort of, there's a lot of background to like the site and stuff. There's a lot of information in here, to be honest. But we're just kind of skipping forward to the bombshell information in a way that like this was all kind of linked to Epstein in a way, and this woman was linked to Epstein. So hopefully I haven't missed the key information here. We'll just play the kind of end of it. But again, yet again, all these sort of dark, satanic, sex, weird, fucking, it's everywhere. You know what I mean? The elites, the fucking, it's more prominent than everyone thinks. You know what I mean? And again, with the Vicki thing there, it was still going on in the 80s, but just maybe not to the same sort of levels. Well, maybe they were again. Just happened to have a company called fucking Showbiz Pizza. Again, Pizzagate. So play a bit of this anyhow. Listen to who this woman ended up to being after the Aviloop site.
Actually like for those who signed up for it? What were they actually being offered? What were they discussing amongst themselves? And what happened on these video calls? It's all unknown, as what I've shown is pretty much all I was able to salvage from the Wayback Machine. However, Aviloop didn't stay down forever. In 2019, Aviloop.com re-emerged, only this time it looked very different. Gone were the deals, the business model, and most importantly the deal attendants, and in its place was what looked to be a generic template website. They still claimed to offer some of their services, but they were now left even more vague, and there was no attempt to even make it look like you could purchase anything. Even the innuendos were gone. It was quite literally as bare bones as it gets, and comes across like a sham website, void of any notable information, with one exception. There was a single new addition to the site, as at the very bottom you could find a short bio, not of a deal attendant but of a legitimate pilot named Nadia Marinko, the creator of Aviloop. This revelation is huge, as Nadia Marinko was a well-known and extremely successful pilot, which makes Aviloop all the more confusing, as you would think that her involvement in the company would help legitimize it, and make it seem more likely that Aviloop was a real company after all. But instead, it actually did the exact opposite, as her involvement plunges this mystery into a whole new depth, a depth far darker than we've yet to discuss.
So Nadia Markinko is the woman's name. Some people, very few, I would imagine, know the name and where it's going. I have already mentioned it's going to link to Epstein here. But yeah, so again, we're 19 minutes in now. There's a lot of information kind of in. He goes into detail into the original site, and it was offering loads of like services to do with sort of airlines and all sorts, but you couldn't really buy anything, and it was a bit weird. And he just had these girls, and then there was like you could video chat with them, and it was all, again, if you want to come and watch it, it's quite detailed. And yeah, the site went down, come back up, as he said. It was a completely different site when it come back up. It wasn't the same site. And at the bottom there was this Nadia Marinko was mentioned. So now he's going to dig into who this woman is. And again, I've already told you she kind of links to Epstein, but how she links to Epstein as well. Yeah, here's another video on the same thing. Aviloop, YouTube's darkest mystery. Got Quasi reacts. He must be reacting to this video that we're kind of reacting to. Although I'm not really reacting to it. I'm just trying to pass on the information, to be honest. Yeah, so again, it's just all in the same ballpark of this satanic elite fucking sex ring, and it's been going on a lot longer than Epstein with the whole Vicki thing in the 80s. So this whole Aviloop thing, again, sites on the internet that are fucking aren't maybe what we think they are. So I'll play a bit more.
Born in Czechoslovakia in 1986, Nadia dedicated her younger years to modeling, landing multiple high-profile roles in her country. And by the age of just 15, these roles led to her being moved to the United States to help continue this budding career. But by 20, her interest had shifted to a different kind of runway. She became obsessed with flying and had a natural talent for it too, quickly rising through the ranks and gaining certifications faster than most others could at that age. By 25, she was considered extremely accomplished for someone so young, and her resume would soon reach a wider audience when she began leveraging social media. She posted videos under the alias Gulfstream Girl, and eventually Global Girl, where she marketed herself as a supermodel turned pilot, which worked to the tune of millions of views. Nadia Marinko was a star in the aviation world and on social media too, and it was during the height of this success that she started Aviloop. It clearly wasn't meant to be some big secret either. She actively promoted it on numerous occasions, doing interviews on podcasts, and even taking it to a trade show. If this was a front for something nefarious, she was doing a bad job of keeping it discreet, which seems to back up our first theory. And it would be very easy to settle on that theory and just call it a day, had being a model and a pilot been all that Nadia was known for. You see, there was something that she was hiding from her audience. A secret in the form of a bond with one man whom she was working closely with at the time that Aviloop was launched. A man by the name of Jeffrey Epstein.
Jeffrey Epstein has been arrested on new sex trafficking charges.
Charges of soliciting and procuring minors for prostitution.
He was involved in trafficking young women and children over to Little St. James.
In case you're somehow unaware, Jeffrey Epstein is the most prolific pedophile and human trafficker maybe of all time. He carried out a large-scale human trafficking operation, bringing children to his private island that he and other elites exploited in horrific ways. It's one of the biggest news stories of my lifetime, and over the past years there's been so much talk surrounding the acquaintances of Epstein. Who is connected with him, and how close were they? But of all these people in Epstein's circle, few, if any, were closer to him than Nadia Marenko.
Yeah, so, again, again, a model when she was young, 14, 15. Again, I mean, very much in with the Epstein there again. When I first watched this, I kind of let the cat out of the bag for you there. When I was first watching it, I had no idea this is where it was going, to be honest. But yeah, just, again, this then, she become a pilot, so she's been probably like trafficking kids to the island, flying the Jeffrey Epstein's plane there. He's actually got one of his abuse victims, and we've maybe got a bit of a case of Stockholm Syndrome here as well. Again, he says in a minute, he apparently bought this girl when she was a child off her father, shipped her to America when she was only 14, 15. He's had control of her since she was that old. She's obviously got old to the point where he's not interested in her sexually because he likes children. But he's kept her on the he's kept her on the payroll. She's now his pilot. But as well, she was apparently still involved in some of the abuse as well. I'll play a bit more, honestly. Very, very interesting stuff here. Well done to Nick Crowley and the digging that's been done here, finding Aviloop and linking it to this woman. You know what I mean? Again, there's people out there doing some great work. Absolutely great work, like. Yeah, again, fucking better than the FBI, you know what I mean? Better than the FBI. So, yeah, this girl, again, bought from her father, took to America, abused, till the point that she's now old, becomes a pilot, and ends up becoming a pilot for Epstein. Sets up this Aviloop site, again, got girls in, was mentioned... sorry, it was the Vicki guy, the Vicki woman with the whole pizza thing I forgot about. Yeah, so see what I mean? It's all kind of the same crack and the same links and same, like, elitist fucking sex fucking blackmail parties, really. That's kind of what's going on as well. So, yeah, I'll play a bit more, but found it very interesting, to be honest. And again, great work, digging this out.
It's a difficult subject to discuss, but Nadia is considered one of Epstein's victims. He found her through her modeling job when she was just a teenager, and she didn't just come to the United States for work. Epstein himself brought her, after allegedly purchasing her from her father. What followed was Nadia becoming his self-described sex slave. It's a horrible and unimaginable fate, but while Nadia appeared to have been a victim of Epstein, that wasn't all she was, as after becoming an adult, she also became Epstein's accomplice. When Epstein was first investigated by the FBI back in the 2000s, many of his victims came forward and claimed that Nadia was not only present for their abuse, but she was a willing participant, there to satisfy Epstein's criminal sexual desires by, on occasion, directly participating in sexual abuse and prostitution of the minor girls. Now, Epstein was eventually given a sweetheart deal for these crimes in 2008, which led to him serving just 13 months in prison. And as part of that deal, Nadia was given complete immunity, meaning she never faced any sort of repercussions for her use of children.
Sorry to interrupt. But it's like Ghislaine Maxwell as well, and this girl here. He had some sort of hypnotic hold over these women in a way. It would seem. Um, he got them to be again. This girl was an abuse victim from very sort of early on, and but then I mean it's very much shades of probably Stockholm syndrome as well in a way. But yeah, both Ghislaine and this woman, and there's probably quite a few more to be honest. I mean Naomi Campbell absolutely been mentioned there as well. Naomi Campbell. So there's at least three women he had a really good control and hold over for some reason. Ghislaine and this last we're mentioning here, definitely in a sexual element. Naomi Campbell, I'm not so sure, but you would imagine so because of everything that's going on here. So yeah, he seemed to have a very much a hold over people in some way. Again, whether they just liked the, I don't know, I don't know. But again, you're hearing what you're hearing. She was complicit in the abuse eventually. So it just carried on. She just went from right through. I mean, whether she was enjoy, I don't know. I don't know. Again, bought from a father apparently, taken over to America. Again, it's all none of it far fetched when you're hearing about Jeffrey Epstein. To be honest, absolutely none of it far fetched. Again, this woman ends up becoming a pilot for him. To get, you know what I mean? So I'll play a bit more, but I just thought it was very interesting tale here that Lado's dug out.
But despite being a free woman by the time that Epstein was thrown in jail, she stood by his side, living in his New York City home, waiting for his release. And while he was behind bars, Nadia would visit him roughly 70 times. These two were deeply connected, even well after she was his slave, with Nadia even making a scrapbook for Epstein, which is just so terrifying that I had to at least mention it in this video. It would be several years later in 2012, a time when Nadia had long since left Epstein's home and his control, that Nadia would rejoin his operation, this time with a brand new role. She became one of Epstein's pilots, taking victims and perpetrators alike to and from the island, on the plane they dubbed the Lolita Express.
What happened on the Lolita Express?
Everything that happened on the Lolita Express and his other planes was the same thing that happened in his bedrooms and the massage rooms. The abuse did not stop because we're in the air. Jeffrey couldn't take a 2-hour flight without having to ejaculate. Like, that's how sick.
I'm pretty sure, for me anyway, that they murdered this woman. There's no way this woman killed herself. She was looking for justice. She'd lived through it all. She'd eventually got millions and millions of pounds off the royal family. I don't believe she killed herself. Even look at the woman here. You know what I mean? She wanted justice. She got some justice and a lot of money. I don't kind of believe she killed herself. Again, I believe she was murdered because, well, she spoke out. She absolutely spoke out about this massive elite fucking paedophile network that's still going on to this day and went on in the 80s there. It was still like this big sexual fucking deviant clubs still going, you know what I mean? This woman dared to speak out about it, dared to get fucking millions of pounds off Andrew. So to suspect that this woman was knocked off, again, the woman in the original story there, Vicki, she was beaten to death with a fucking baseball bat when she was about to write a book about all this, you know what I mean? So to be murdered for speaking out about the richest, most powerful people in the world is not a fucking, it's not like it's absolutely probably what's happened, do you know what I mean? These people get murdered because they try to fuck with the richest, most powerful people in the world. And it's not a good idea, you know what I mean? It isn't a good idea. They will probably get you murdered, that's the point. So, I don't believe for a second, personally, that this woman killed herself. I don't, I really don't. And, again, because what she's mixed up in, that's why I don't. Because, honestly, she knows so much about some of the richest, most powerful people in the world. And she hadn't told all. She'd only kind of threw Andrew to the wolves. So yeah, definitely murdered for me. Absolutely, definitely murdered. I mean, she was in a car crash, and then they didn't manage to fucking kill her. So basically, they killed her like the fucking day or two later. You know what I mean? It's kind of what happened, I believe. And I think she was fearing for her life. I think it was a crack as well as these some of these fucking scientists that have gone missing as well. They were fearing for their lives, and then fucking they went missing. So people go missing and people get killed, like, and again, depending on who you fuck with, the chances heighten. You know what I mean? Go and fuck with a drug gang in like Manchester, and they'll probably kill you. Like, so the richest, most powerful fucking people in the world here. Well, you'll definitely get yourself murdered, won't you? So yeah, this woman did for me anyway. She never murdered. She never killed herself. No way. She was murdered.
This man was.
Nadia Marenko was directly trafficking children for Epstein, and she was doing this in 2012, mere months after she started Aviloop. Which brings us to our third and most upsetting theory. That Aviloop wasn't a cover for prostitution, but rather a front for child sex trafficking and pedophilia. Nadia's involvement alone and the timing of the company's launch, mixed with all the innuendos, the red flags, it all starts to make sense. And it's made even more disturbing when you look at the videos they posted on YouTube, as one thing I failed to mention so far is just how young these deal attendants look.
Yeah, well, I think he goes into it, and they are actually they're not underage, the girls in the end. But yeah, I'm gonna kind of leave it there. If you want to come and watch the rest of the video, but just again. Thought it very interesting. Again, this sort of done some digging on a weird internet site, and it ended up being run by this girl who has absolute massive direct links to Jeffrey Epstein. So yeah, and again, just more what goes on in the background. You know what I mean? Like this whole site that fucking again the links, the fucking unbelievable, really. And then the first video, obviously, a kind of sex scandal in the 80s there, with sort of shades of Epstein and sex parties. And then the woman was going to write a book, and lo and behold, she was beaten to fucking death with a baseball bat, which, if you don't think that's fucking suspicious, then, well, you'll never figure it out, to be honest. So, yeah, like, people get murdered by these people, they really do. Well, a lot of people have been murdered, and this is, again, part of trying to sort of expose what's going on, because not just a children being raped and fucking abused and murdered, but people are being murdered for trying to fucking expose them raping, murdering children. That's kind of what's happening here, you know what I mean? And because it's such like a high level club of powerful people, again, the people who run the world. But you wonder why your world's a fucking shit show, you know what I mean? You've let satanic paedophiles fucking run the world here. Well, as I've said before, that's not going to go well, folks. You know what I mean? If you let the satanic paedophiles run the whole world, it'll probably go to shit. It'll probably go to shit. Oh, my money's on it'll go to shit anyhow. It's going well. It's going well, and it's going to shit. So I will leave it there anyhow. Two good videos, Control Alt History and Nick Crowley. Again, a lot longer, more to the video than I played. I maybe only played, 10 minutes of each of them, both 30 minutes long. So I'll get over to the channel if you want to know a bit more of the full crack, so to speak. I'll leave it there, peace.